Without making a sound, she threw it at the leader. The knife pierced his throat. He went down so quickly he hadn't even had time to scream. She quickly readied another knife and darted between the men in camo. Her target was the man pointing a gun at Mayuri's head. She dropped her hips low to the ground. In an instant, she moved behind him and slit his throat. Blood poured out onto an astonished Mayuri, but there was no time to worry about her. She grabbed his rifle and fired a few shots to force him to the ground, then grabbed Mayuri's hand and ran behind the machine. The plan had gone well so far, but she had seriously underestimated how well trained these men were. The second in command quickly moved to the front and worked to re-establish control. All she had was a knife and the gun she'd stolen, and she needed to protect Mayuri, a non-combatant. She was still facing more than 25 active enemies. Whatever the right way to get out of this was, she couldn't find it. The time machine was still active. She couldn't escape because she couldn't leave it there. One of the men fired several rounds toward her, which bounced off the side of the machine. And then Mayuri's head flew back as if she'd been struck. A spurt of blood came out. Her cute face was turning blood red. One of the rounds had grazed her after it had ricocheted. She was clutching herself with her arms, and her expression was completely blank. Her tiny body was shaking. Suzuki couldn't blame her. She fired back at the enemy, but they kept drawing closer. The time machine's maintenance hatch was right in front of her. When she saw it was there, she visualized her last option in her mind. If she did that, all of her plans would be ruined. The path to Steins Gate would be forever closed. But that didn't mean she was cold-blooded enough to sacrifice Mayuri here. If the world lines were going to converge, maybe Mayuri wouldn't die here after all. But what her father had said during his video message bothered her. Which meant that Suzu had no proof that Mayuri would be alive in 2036 now. Had the world line really changed? Of course, for the sake of Operation Ocula, she hoped it had. But that meant she wouldn't be able to move from this place. The worst case scenario, that would be these men taking the time machine. They could turn the world line into something even worse than the one Suzu had experienced. It might become a world line where not only Mayuri's life wasn't safe, but Daro's wasn't either. If that was going to happen, she had to make her choice fast. She kept a careful eye on the men, and as soon as she saw an opening, she opened the maintenance hatch's biometric lock. She could see part of the engine, which was still giving off a quiet rumble. She turned her gun sights on it. Fortunately, the unit that created the Cure black hole still wasn't active. Even if she blew up the machine here, it probably wouldn't cause serious damage to the space-time continuum. As soon as she saw that, she went to pull the trigger. But Mayuri's voice stopped her. Mayuri had stopped her once before, and once again she hesitated for just another instant. On the battlefield, that instant can decide your fate. She took a quick look around again, and then she froze. Mixed in with the men in the camo was a girl in a dark motorcycle suit and helmet. Was it Kagari who had leaked this place's location to them? She was well aware of Kagari's abilities after their 2 battles. If she wasn't completely in control of herself, she'd be killed instantly. She talked to herself. How many would she have to take with her in order to give Mayuri a chance to escape? Right now, the only thing she could afford to think about was getting Mayuri back to Rintaro Okabe. But just when she'd made her decision, she felt Kagari staring at her, or more precisely, the blood dripping down Mayuri's forehead. And just after that, Kagari did something she hadn't expected at all. There was a scream. No, it was the howl of an enraged beast. And then the slaughter began. Welcome to Kagari fucking shit up on the reel. Kagari grabbed the second-in-command's head with her left hand. With her right, she steadied her rifle. After she fired, there was very little left of his head. Yikes. Jesus. The rest of him dropped to the ground. She slammed the piece of tattered flesh that had once been a man's head into the ground, and with no warning at all, leaped from one screaming man to another. She fired her gun into every one of them. Even when her targets were already soaked in a sea of blood, she kept firing until their limbs were blown apart into unrecognizable rags. Some of them had tried shooting at her to protect themselves, but no matter where she was struck, Kagari didn't even flinch. When her magazine ran dry, she drew forth long military-style cleavers. Holding one in each hand, she used them in her military combat training to slaughter anyone she saw. Their entrails were scattered all over the twilight rooftop, covering her whole body in blood and bits of flesh. Suzuha held Mayuri's head tight to her chest. Mayuri was shaking from fear, but she did as she was told and clamped her hands down over her ears. Even so, she could probably still hear the sounds of ripping flesh and shattering bone. Even Suzuha had gone stone cold in shock. During all her time in combat, she'd never seen a one-sided slaughter like this. She experienced this when they fought, but Kagari seemed to feel no fear or pain. She simply focused all her energy on killing her opponent. It was often said that humans unconsciously avoid using all their muscle power to protect their own bodies, but Kagari seemed to lack that capability. Just now, she stabbed a man who turned to run from her in the back, then tossed his huge body to the ground with only a single arm, as she kicked his stomach from below and ruptured his organs, killing him. Ow! Finally, after several, perhaps a dozen or more of the men had been killed, what remained of the squad started to scream orders at one another. With terrifying reflexes, she dodged between their shots and brutally murdered several more, but... At last, a hail of gunfire struck her left hand, and the knife she was holding fell to the floor. No, that wasn't it. It wasn't the knife that fell, it was her entire left hand. Ooh, Jesus. The shock caused her body to stagger back. Someone screamed in a voice that lacked any of the pride and bravery of a soldier who is supposed to possess. Several more bullets dug into her body. Parts of the motorcycle suit ripped open and the helmet cracked. Blood that was clearly her own, and not that of the men she'd killed, began to pour out. At last, she fell into a pile of corpses. Yes! They must have thought they had finally had her. One of the survivors pointed the gun down to finish her, and just as he was about to pull the trigger, welcome to Everyone Screams, the episode. Her bestial roar and the man's terrified scream overlapped in a horrible cacophony. She forced herself to leap up and brought the back of the remaining cleaver down on his arm, knocking him back. An instant later, the knife slit his throat and ended his life. Maybe we should have done that earlier. The survivors began to flee in terror. Now's not the time to come to the radio building. When I reached the radio building, I realized that many people in the crowd of pedestrians were holding their phones up to the sky. There was evidently no service near the station either. I took a moment to catch my breath as I looked up at the radio building. I could hear what sounded like a distant explosion. It wasn't just one. The explosions were coming in a series. Several of the people around me were glancing at their surroundings, confused by these unfamiliar sounds. And then I realized that was gunfire. I remember the sounds I'd heard during the battle between Stern's rounders and the Russian military. The sounds were coming from the roof of the radio building. Had I not made it in time? I ran into the radio building. For some reason, the elevator was under maintenance and turned off. I had no choice but to take the stairs. My heart was pounding so fast I thought it would burst, and I tripped several times due to how tense I was. I stumbled again and again on the stairs. How many times would I come up these stairs feeling like this? Cursing my lack of endurance, I headed for the top floor. When I got into the 7th floor, I ran into someone I'd hoped I wouldn't see. No, my guess that I'd run into them was right. I wish that I wasn't, but...
Yeah, Rintaro. Masaka konna ni hayaku kimi ga kuru to wa omowanakatta yo.
Dr. Lesson seemed perturbed when he saw my face.
どうしてここに
少し落ち着きなさい。そんなに息が切れていたのでは話もできないよ。
どうしてここにいるんです。アマデウスはどうなったんです。
君に頼んだサンプリングテストは半年前に終わっている。話すことはできないな。
That was his answer. Even though Amadeus had disappeared, Leskinen was extremely calm. There was no sign of him trying to deal with the problem, and instead of being in his office, he was here. That was all I needed to know.
クリスが俺に送ってきたメッセージの内容は本当だったんですね。
The father she had spoken of was Leskinen, after all.
クリスや魔法どうしたんです。彼女たちの記憶データを解析してタイムマシンに関するデータを取り出すつもりなんでしょう。
驚いたな。クリスはそこまで君に話してしまったのか。監視していたつもりだったが、いつの間にそんな真似を。
Leskinen seemed truly shocked, which meant he hadn't noticed that Kirisa wasn't at Chandler or that she'd spoken to me there. And then Leskinen took out a gun and pointed at me.
君は少し踏み込みすぎたようだ。
あなたは何者なんだ。
科学者だよ。だが科学者も実践事業ではないのでね。君はストラテジックフォーカス社というアメリカの民間情報機関を知っているかな。
ストラテジック
I could throw all this again.
アメリカのストラトフォーカ。
I'd read about them on a conspiracy theory website. I remembered reading that they'd acquired top-secret information on Russian ballistic missiles that even the CIA couldn't get, and then sold it. The result was the destruction of the CIA's reputation, and at the same time the total reorganization of Russia's military strategy. I'd even heard rumors that during the Gulf and Iraq wars, they obtained information about the warring countries faster than anyone and spread it as needed, as we've said before.
世界から影の CIA などと呼ばれているのが私たちだよ。
So was he going to use Amadeus for military purposes? Was everything he said at the seminar just platitudes and lies?
まあ、私のことはどうでもいいだろう。それよりリンターロ、勝美から聞いたのだが、